What's up, everybody, and welcome back. If you watched the last video, we built a 8.8 rear end that we're putting in our 1984 Ford LTD drag and drive car. And we done this on a budget, and we retained factory disc brakes. So if y'all want to watch that, go check out the last video. This is just a Ford 8.8 out of a SN95 Mustang, and we put it in a Fox body, so we had to do a little work to it. Like I said, go check out the last video. But we've got to get this thing up in the car so we once again have a roller. And if y'all come over here with me, I'll show you what we got to put in this thing. We have the Pt.4 Pro Series lower adjustable control arms, upper adjustable control arms, the anti-roll bar, and we also have the solid spherical bushings, which we've already put in the 8.8. And with this anti-roll bar, as everything, as always, let me get this out of my way. I overthought about it, and what I've done is I ordered the weld-in kit, and I didn't realize they had a bolt-in kit. But even if I did realize it, I probably would have ordered a weld-in kit anyways, because it's about $100 cheaper. So what I've done is I've drilled holes in these flanges and installed a Zerk fitting, because I am going to be driving this thing on the street a lot. And I know UPR says disconnect for street driving, but I mean, you know, I'm not going to say I'm always going to remember to do that. So if it starts squeaking, binding up or anything like that, I want to be able to grease it. And if it breaks or anything like that, I want to be able to take it out. If I want to upgrade later, you know, this, that, and other. The list goes on. So what I'll do is we'll walk back here to the back of the car, and I'll kind of show y'all what we've got going on so far. And you got to remember, this is a 1984 LTD. It's not a Fox body. This is a Fox body kit, and this is not a knock on UPR by any means. It's just, I think the frame rails are a little wider in the back of these LTDs, and I could be wrong, but this bar was a little short. And you keep in mind, I do have aftermarket upper adjustable torque boxes in it, so the placement of forwards and backwards may be a little off, and that may be what I'm dealing with. So just come back here and I'll show you what we got. All right, so as I mentioned, I have holes drilled in this mounting flange, and I also have holes drilled in this 1/4 inch plate that I've mounted. And I've got this 1/4 inch plate butted up to the Hammer Concepts and Designs upper torque boxes. So, you know, that'll be a nice solid weld. It'll be all welded around through here. And in my mind, it'll be, you know, a little bit stronger than just sticking this up there and welding it to the frame. So what I've done is I've drilled and tapped holes right there so that this flange fits right there. And we still have to do it over here on this side. We do have the plate mounted intact, but we've still got to drill and tap the holes. So we'll get set up and we'll get this side drilled and tapped, and then we'll get, once I get done, we'll come back and we'll test fit this thing and see how it works. All right, so let me show y'all what we got going on so far. This thing rotates pretty well. It's not as loose as it should be. And the reason being is this frame is not the exact taper as this boss is set up to this flange. And you can see right there, see that gap? So what I plan to do is I'm just gonna stick a washer on the back side in between this flange and this plate. So that way we don't have any bindage on this thing. Like I said, it would be fine like it is. It just, anytime you don't have really free moving parts on bearings, it will accelerate the wear on the bearings. But all in all, I mean, it's gonna look good when it's in. And one thing I've been keeping in mind is one day I may mini tub this thing. And you know, when you mini tub them, you essentially cut all this out, and you're going right, you know, about 1 inch off the frame rail, if not to the frame rail. And another thing I'm considering is one day I'll have coilovers. You know, your axle will be right in here. Let me give y'all a better view. So you can see in reference right there is the end link of the anti-roll bar. It is just off the center line of this wheel well. And you got to remember, the reason it's off the center line is because it welds to the back side of the axle. You know, it welds right here. And honestly, you can weld them to the front side, top, back. It really don't matter. You just got to, you want everything parallel whenever you put it together. You want, you know, if possible, you want your links running vertically, you know, straight vertically. But you do want these links, these braces parallel, because it has more leverage to act on the chassis of the car to the rear end to keep the chassis from rolling over on the rear end. And you know, if it's down here, it just doesn't have the leverage. The links are having to work harder, and therefore you're putting more strain on your links, your tabs that are welded to your rear end and all. So the biggest thing is getting these parallel with the chassis and the link bars as straight as we can get them. And I set it up like this on purpose. You know, typically you would, I think this is about where you would have it, you know, if you was putting in a factory Fox body, because you know, you have this big bracket that comes out here, and you have your factory uppers, you know, all kind of right in here. And I don't know exactly where it's at, you know, where all that factory metal was at, because the instructions tell you to butt this up to the factory torque boxes and up to the top of the frame, you know, and I just don't have that. So I'm having to go with I'm working with the center line of the wheel well is what I'm doing here. But we'll get you guys set up again, and we're gonna get these plates burned in, and we'll get everything spaced out correctly, and we'll have this thing rotating a lot better than it is now, and we'll bring y'all back. Then as soon as we get that done, we're gonna start putting the upper and lower control arms on the rear end. Well, I mean, we'll mount those on the body of the frame of the car, and then we'll put some wheels and tires on this rear end and roll it up under there and get it up under there. So y'all just hang with me. All right, so as always, when you mess up on something, unfortunately you don't realize until after you mess up. And maybe not mess up's the right terminology, but I could have done this better. Let me explain that to you real quick on as far as this anti-roll bar goes. So I mentioned that they have a weld-in kit, and I did not know that whenever I bought this, so I went ahead and, you know, I'm sorry, let me back up. I mentioned they have a bolt-in kit, and whenever I bought this one, I did not realize that, so I ordered the weld-in kit. So therefore, I've, you know, made this one a bolt-in kit, and it works, I mean, pretty flawlessly. But as I mentioned earlier, this taper was a little bit off on this side, so I ended up putting a washer right here, and that freed everything up. You know, I didn't use this upper hole that I drilled because their bolt-in version does not utilize that, so apparently 3 is good enough, and that's what I'm going with. And the reason I'm not using that one is because it's a pretty good bit off. It's got a pretty good gap behind it, and I just don't want to deal with stacking washers right there. So this is the route I'm going. But to go back to what I was saying about messing up, is I should have bolted this bracket, this flange, to this plate, then welded the plate in. That's where I messed up at. But like I said, you don't realize these things till afterwards, and guarantee you I won't do it again. But this will be fine for now. I mean, one day, I mean, I don't know how fast I plan to go with this car. So I mean, this will more than likely just, it'll be sufficient for whatever I ever do with this car. So, and if it's not, then I can take it out, I can unbolt it, and I can buy something like Cameron Johnson's race car, anti-roll bar, and put up in here. And that you can shorten them down to whatever you need to. They fit multiple chassis. It's kind of you just buy it and you cut it down to what you need, and do it that way. And that's what I'll do next. But this will be fine for now. But let me show y'all what I've done since I've got this mounted. So we went ahead and painted everything, got it looking a lot better. Painted the wheel wells. I haven't painted anything back here because I've still got to do a lot of fabrication back there. All my fuel cells got to be mounted. I mean, when I say I painted it, I mean I painted it. There's still some touch up to do, but for the most part, everything's done. And we got the calipers, rotors on the 8.8. Everything, I mean, it fits well. We have all our hardware figured out for this UPR stuff. And that's where we're at now, is putting the uppers and lowers in. And what we're going to do, or what I've done so far, is I've just made these the length of the factory uppers, made these the length of the factory lowers. As far as the hardware, I think the only place I'm using factory hardware is where the lowers meet the axle. These uppers, I believe they came with, either way, I don't know where these bolts came from, but I had these new in the package. I'm not sure where they come from. But the hammers come with these spacers and these bolts. And for the uppers, because the spacers that UPR sends and the factory spacing is too wide. You can see that difference right there. Those are misalignment spacers. You can see that difference between this lip and that lip. So the Hammer Concepts uppers come with these bolts and spacers, and they're 1/2 inch. That's another thing. The Team Z lowers accept 1/2 inch bolts. I'm sure you could run factories, but it's more than likely not recommended because you're going to have a slop. The factory bolts are M12, so you're going to have 1 millimeter of slop there. So what I've done is I've drilled these out, these spacers, to 1/2 inch. Now, these UPR lowers accept 1/2 inch bolts. So we're good there. So I think now we're at the point where we can start bolting this stuff under. And what I plan to do is these old pipe jacks, they go up real far. So what I plan to do is I'm gonna lower this thing down a little bit. I'm gonna get everything bolted under there, and I'm gonna get the ride height set to where I think it's gonna be. And I don't really know where my cam height is gonna be, but what I plan to do is I'm gonna set these bars, the lower, parallel, and this will be all without the springs in there. I'm just gonna set the ride height to where I think it's gonna be, which is probably gonna be just below or just above the upper fender well. And the reason I say that is because these tires, if you look, they were hitting the fenders, the inner fenders, and cutting them a little bit. So I know that it's going to be up in there a little bit by the time you get the weight of the fuel cell and a few extra things back here in the trunk. It'll probably go down another 3/4 of an inch or so. And I'll get everything hung in here, get it all up in the air. Like I said, let me backpedal, go back to where I was at. Setting these lower bars parallel, and I'm gonna set the upper bars at just a little bit of an angle like this. That way when it has a little bit of, I want to set it at about 110% anti-squat, because I am going to be running slicks, and I don't, I'm more likely going to have to go below 100% anti-squat before it's all said and done, but I'm going to try it at 110% at first. That won't be too aggressive, and that's just You know, it's not unheard of on slicks. But that's enough rambling for now. Let me get y'all set up, and we will get all this stuff installed, everything bolted under here, get the rear end up under here, and we'll go to adjusting. And while one thing we've got to do is we've still got to weld the brackets on the rear end for this anti-roll bar. You know, still got to do all that. We'll do that after we get it set up, get everything like we want it, the ride height where we think it's going to be. And we can make the ride height adjustable, because I have adjustable ride height springs, and by adjustable I mean we'll just cut them. You know, grinder, cut them, we'll be good. Oldest trick in the book. All right, we'll get this stuff installed, guys. All right, so we're unofficially done with it as far as the rear suspension goes. We almost have a roller again, and by almost I mean we've still got to put coil springs up under it, but I mean that's to come at a later date, and definitely not today. I think it's about 92 degrees and about 150% humidity out here, and I'm calling it, throwing in the towel for today. But we got a lot done. We got the anti-roll bar mounted. We got the rear end up under there. We got all the suspension adjusted, you know, to where I think it should be. I think we're probably going to be around 120% anti-squat, just going off rough numbers. I know I said earlier I wanted to be around 110, but I mean, this is where we're at. One of the issues I'm having is these adjustable control arms, the uppers and lowers, don't have enough adjustment to keep the wheels centered in the wheel well, the axle centered in the wheel well, and to move to the front and back holes up and down on the adjustable torque boxes. So more than likely later on I'm gonna have to build some fab some up as far as you know, control arms that'll have a little bit more adjustability, make them adjustable on each end. That'll be whenever I go to coilovers. This is gonna have to work for now. Let me show y'all what we got. So this is pretty much where I'm thinking it's going to be ride height, or this is where it's going to be. It's where I'm going to make it. It's where I've got everything dialed in at. It's where I want it to be. It's where I'm going to have to cut and trim the springs until I get there. And honestly, they may already be there. I haven't tried it with any weight on it. But here, one big issue I had. I kind of had issue after issue. These jam nuts are 1.1 inches. Okay, at 1.1 inches, they would hit right here. They're almost hitting now. It looks like they are, but they've got plenty of clearance. Or you can see there, they've got about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch. And also, this stud right here, or this link would hit. So what I had to do is I had to put these nuts in the lathe and turn them down to a 15/16. Then I had to turn this down just to knock the flats off of it, or the hex off of it, to so it would have clearance. But other than that, we have -3 degrees pinion angle. The anti-roll bar works good, doesn't bind up. It goes pretty much all the way up to the bump stops without any issues. I do need to make it to where I've got to build a little get off right here so that my bump stops hit, because it just, if the bump stops hit, the tires pretty much will hit the top of the fender wells. So I'm gonna have to limit that, but I will cycle it down just to kind of show y'all. That's full droop, and I'm just jacking it up on one tire, so that shows you the anti-roll bar is working. I mean, it brings it right up. No, you can't see that real well. But that's what we got. We pretty much have a roller again. Like I said, we just got to put coil springs in it, and it'll be good to go. We one step closer, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Help a brother out. I'm at like 90 something subscribers, and help me out with that. Thanks. Have a good day, y'all.